No, I think that would be inappropriate.
Okay, it's just written down here. I have to ask.
Nicole Kidman has finally spoken out about her troubled marriage to Tom Cruise, revealing the ugly side of their apparently ideal partnership in a bombshell disclosure that has caused waves in Hollywood. The public's previous belief in a fairy tale romance is shattered when a story of religious manipulation, isolation, and control surfaces behind the surface-level illusions. The real price of being Mrs. Tom Cruise, as Kidman reveals as she peels back the layers of their relationship, is the price paid for personal independence and individuality. However, the origins of this tale of love and tragedy are unclear. In 1989, on the set of a film that would alter the course of their lives irrevocably, the circumstances that led to this tragic Hollywood ending were set in motion. In 1989, while filming Days of Thunder, in which they played romantic interests, Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise initially crossed paths. Both were greatly affected by it. But Kidman, an obscure Australian actress still attempting to make her mark in Hollywood, was particularly affected. However, Cruise was already a household name, having starred in several successful films including Rain Man and Top Gun. The encounter was so powerful that it would alter their lives in irrevocable ways. Kidman was filled with wonder as she stepped into the realm of film at the tender age of 22. She talked about how overwhelming those first several days were in subsequent interviews. She admitted, "I was just a little girl." Really? At the age of 22, the adrenaline and attention were too much for me. Kidman had a humble upbringing in Sydney, Australia, far from the bright lights of Hollywood, and her rise to international stardom was a recent phenomenon. En contrast, one of the most well-known names in the business, Tom Cruise seemed like a fantasy. For Cruise as well, something about Kidman's presence resonated. Already one of the most identifiable faces on the planet, Cruise was not unusual in working with gifted and gorgeous ladies. But Kidman attracted him with his mix of a certain innocence, raw brilliance, and natural beauty. Later on, Cruise mentioned how captivated she had her during their first days on location together. Their on-screen relationship in Days of Thunder seemed to have moved straight into real life. There was indisputable chemistry between them. The spark starting on set shot rapidly off-screen. With her tall, elegant beauty and vivid personality, Kidman seemed to be the ideal fit for Cruise's boyish appeal and unbounded vitality. Their friendship developed under the close scrutiny of the media. Still, driven by the heady enthusiasm of young love, it was a personal affair at that point. Kidman was not sure just how drastically her life was going to alter. Just over a year after their encounter, by the end of 1990, Cruise and Kidman wed in a covert ceremony on Christmas Eve. Hidden from the curious eyes of the press, it was a very personal and private occasion. Their public reputations seemed to contradict their choice to keep the wedding understated. Still, it also addressed their real bond with each other. For Kidman, this whirl-around romance fulfilled a fairy tale. She had fallen for Cruise because of their compelling, emotional connection as much as his star appeal. He carried me off my feet. Kidman remembered years later in an interview, "I dropped rapidly, fervorously in love. I would have traveled to the furthest points on earth for him." This quotation captures the range of her emotions at the time, a love so strong it appeared to swallow her. Still adjusting to the movie business, Kidman unexpectedly found herself wed to one of the most influential men in Hollywood. They had evolved into the ideal power couple while the globe watched. Together, they rapidly became Hollywood's golden couple, a symbol of success and glitz. They seemed unbeatable with Cruise's established reputation as a movie king and Kidman's star on the ascent. Photographers trailed them everywhere in search of a glimpse of this larger-than-life duo. Their public appearances, with their brilliant smiles and entwined hands, enhanced the impression of a couple who were not only in love, but also at the height of their personal and professional life. Early on in their marriage, the pair was excited and discovering, but so were those who followed their every action. Publicly, Cruise and Kidman were living the dream, two gorgeous, gifted individuals profoundly in love and dominating Hollywood together. It was the apparently ideal beginning for what everyone thought would be a long and happy marriage. Like many fairy tales, though there was more underlay. Though in reality a relationship defined by great emotion and also the complexity of negotiating life in public view, What seemed like an easy and glitzy marriage was still. Kidman and Cruise clearly loved each other in those early years. It was a love story developed in the seductive realm of Hollywood. A world in which fantasies come true, but also in which the boundaries separating truth from fiction can disappear. The power couple of Hollywood. Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise rose to become among the most famous and powerful couples in Hollywood over the 1990s. They were living examples of the ideal mix between talent, attractiveness, and celebrity. They dominated the business in both talent and public appeal as Kidman's star grew thanks to her exceptional performances in movies like To Die For and Cruise's relentless career in blockbusters like Mission Impossible. Whether they were walking down the red carpet hand in hand or attending star-studded events, the cameras followed and they were always front-page news wherever they went. Their impact transcended the screen. They were more than simply performers, though. Representing the height of Hollywood fame and glitz, they were cultural icons. Their marriage seemed to confirm their roles as Hollywood royalty, therefore transforming them to a nearly mythic form. For many admirers, they represented what the dreamy world of show business allowed. Two persons capable of having all: love, family, and a busy profession. Though their public life seemed ideal, behind the scenes things were far more difficult. Living under constant attention from celebrities and the great pressures associated with their professions started to wear one. While Cruise and Kidman were juggling their explosive film careers, they chose to adopt Connor and Isabella. Adopting was a turning point in their life as they worked to create a family in their busy, public life. Their family used to seem to represent completeness for a while. Having 2 kids, successful professions, and the love of both fans and the business itself, they seemed to have found the perfect mix between job and personal life. As is always the case, though appearances did not fully represent reality, their marriage started to suffer, especially with the great attention that comes with leading such a public life, even if they were clearly successful. One of the most tenacious causes of conflict was Scientology, the divisive faith Tom Cruise followed intensely. Cruise's participation in the Church of Scientology had been well publicized, and his allegiance to the church grew as his reputation climbed. On the other hand, Kidman had been reared Catholic, and her interaction with Scientology was significantly more complicated. Her doubts about the church surfaced, leading to speculations that her religious disagreements with Cruise were souring their marriage. Kidman did, years later, provide some insight into how young and maybe unprepared she had been when she accepted such a high-profile marriage, even if she hardly spoke out explicitly against Scientology during their marriage. She spoke rather honestly in an interview, "I was young when I married. Looking back today, I wonder, what?" This comment exposed the extent of her emotional development still under progress in her early years with Cruise. Kidman was thrown into a swirl of fame, marriage, and parenthood at 23 when she married. This could have been difficult for anyone, let alone someone somewhat fresh to the Hollywood scene. Another major contributing aspect to their marriage's power disparity was both personally and professionally. Cruise, who was already a well-known superstar by the time they met, dominated their relationship, though very gifted and well-known in her own right. Kidman frequently felt her husband's great popularity eclipsed her. She supported him at media events and at premiere in the early years of their marriage. Her own career was starting to soar, but it was difficult to flee the shadow of her husband, whose name had grown to be connected with worldwide box office triumph. Kidman's skill and will came through over time, and she started to become a great star in her own right. Still, the dynamics in her marriage stayed complicated, even as she developed her own identity as a strong actress and received critical praise. Kidman herself has said that her marriage to Cruise had a big effect on how the world saw her, including how she saw herself. She once observed, "There's a lot of curiosity about you, and when you're in a marriage so well known." Their relationship suffered as a result of the pressure of keeping up a high-profile marriage, raising children, negotiating the world of Scientology, and forging their own careers, though they stayed an arresting and apparently content couple in public. Whispers of personal turmoil and strife started to circulate. The sudden end and its afterglow. After 11 years of marriage, Tom Cruise filed for divorce from Nicole Kidman in February 2001, shocking Hollywood and leaving Kidman personally astonished. The news came apparently out of nowhere, and its abruptness put the media and supporters in a state of incredulity. Though the causes of the split were never formally verified, whispers about anything from personal conflicts to growing Scientology's influence in Cruise's life spread. For Kidman, the divorce was not only unanticipated but also rather traumatic. Years later, she answered honestly in interviews about the emotional anguish she went through and exposed how unprepared she had been for such a life-altering incident. She admitted in one interview, "I took a very long time to heal. My system became shocked over it." Her writings captured the great sense of loss and betrayal she experienced as the life she had hoped for with Cruise rapidly collapsed. The knowledge that Kidman had experienced a miscarriage at the time of the split added to her anguish. This personal tragedy added to the emotional weight of the divorce and left her juggling loss on several levels. Kidman subsequently, in a rare moment of openness, said the miscarriage was a major and profound suffering at an already turbulent period. The death of a child added still another layer of grief that heightened her extreme emptiness at the end of her marriage. Cruise seemed to be moving on fast, soon developing a public relationship with actress Penelope Cruz, while Kidman chose another route. She withdrew from the stage, allowing time to sort the emotional whirl around her. Her marriage ended suddenly, and the agony of the miscarriage put her at a crossroads. Not sure how to negotiate life without the man she had shared over a decade. Though personally conflicted, Kidman found comfort in her profession. Rather than let the divorce ruin her, she turned her suffering into her acting, giving Moulin Rouge one of the most highly regarded performances of her career. Both viewers and reviewers responded well to her performance of the sad courtesan Satine, which helped her to be nominated for an Academy Award and so confirmed her leading actress reputation. She then had a stunning performance in The Hours, which brought her an Oscar for Best Actress. These consecutive achievements for Kidman marked not just a career, but also a personal rebirth. Still, it was clear that the divorce had an emotional toll. Kidman revealed in times of reflection how strongly she had thought her marriage to Cruise would be permanent. She said, "Our life together seemed ideal. I needed a very long time to realize it wasn't." These statements exposed the discrepancy between the public impression of their apparently perfect relationship and the reality of its frailty. Kidman's meditation indicated how much the divorce had destroyed her idealized perspective of marriage and love. After their divorce, Kidman attempted to reconstruct her life and sense of self. While Cruise's quick public recovery added to the media frenzy, Kidman concentrated on recreating her identity beyond the shadow of her former marriage. She was Nicole Kidman, the highly regarded, award-winning actress who had come into her own, not Tom Cruise's wife, for the first time in more than 10 years. Looking back on their marriage's fall apart, Kidman's viewpoint has changed. She has shown thanks for the development that resulted from the great suffering. She has admitted that the event molded her into the independent, self-aware, and resilient person she is now, even with the heartbreak. In a sense, her divorce from Cruise signaled the start of a new chapter for Kidman that would let her thrive both personally and professionally. Kidman's life underwent a turning point from the divorce that first felt like a terrible blow. She discovered the will to rise through the pain, forging a career that would define her legacy as among the most gifted and revered actresses of her generation. The role of Scientology. One of the more divisive and complicated features of Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise's marriage was Cruise's intense Church of Scientology attendance. From the start of their relationship, Cruise's religious dedication had a big influence on their way of living. Long under public discussion is Scientology, a movement started by L. Ron Hubbard. Cruise was among the most well-known members of the group, especially because of his reserved demeanor and strong influence over his followers. He frequently spoke candidly about his church loyalty. Though their degrees of dedication varied, both Cruise and Kidman first engaged with Scientology. Raised in an Australian fervent Catholic family, Kidman allegedly had a more dubious opinion of the church than her husband. She helped Cruise make spiritual decisions, but when she tried to really accept Scientology's ideas, the conflict started to surface. This religious difference developed over time to be among the major causes of conflict in their marriage. Cruz's allegiance to Scientology grew stronger over their time together. While Kidman seemed to be more cut off from the church, he grew more outspoken about his convictions. There was conjecture that the couple's different opinions on Scientology helped to explain their ultimate split. Insiders said in the years following their divorce that Kidman had started to feel uneasy about Cruz's degree of participation in the church, especially given her increasing impact on their personal lives. When asked in interviews following the divorce, Kidman stayed strictly neutral about Scientology. Though she never openly attacked the church or outright verified its involvement in their breakup, her silence sometimes said volumes. Strong ramifications for Scientology have, over the years, undoubtedly been a dividing element in their relationship. As Cruz grew even more deeply involved in the church following their divorce, and as Kidman cut herself off from it, this hypothesis attracted popularity. Their children, Isabella and Connor, both of whom stayed with Cruz following the divorce and were nurtured within the Scientology community, were among the most devastating elements of this circumstance. This resulted in a lot of conjecture that Kidman's connection with her children had become strained, especially given their increasing church involvement and age. Always tactful, Kidman has hardly spoken on this side of her personal life. Still, there were years of whispers of a distance between her and her children. In the years after separating from Cruz, Kidman gently and elegantly addressed the topic of her children. She avoided answering explicitly in interviews about how Scientology fits her connection with Isabella and Connor. Rather, she concentrated on showing them her love and encouragement independent of their decisions. Now, adults are free to make their own decisions, Kidman remarked. As a mother, my role is to love them. They have chosen to be Scientologists. Her comments suggested a careful balancing effort, respecting their opinions without alienating them and also indicating that, at last, their decisions were their own. When Kidman talks about Scientology, her diplomatic approach emphasizes her want to put the emphasis on her love for her children instead of the controversial character of their religious paths. She constantly underlined in interviews the value of pure love as a parent, independent of religious or philosophical background. She said in one interview that I knew 150% that I would give my life for my children. She made it abundantly evident that although maybe complicated, her link with them remained strong in her heart. Still, it was obvious that Scientology remained a factor in the interaction between Kidman, Cruz, and their kids. Growing up within the church, Isabella and Connor got further ingrained in the Scientology community as young people. Kidman stayed on the outside. The public still finds enormous fascination in Kidman's relationship with her children. The speculative media interest around it has never really faded. Kidman's attitude to talking about Scientology and her family has always been marked by cautious avoidance of controversy. She has chosen to highlight the value of family togetherness rather than disparaging Cruz's faith or questioning her children's attendance at the church. Still, it is indisputable that Scientology stayed a contentious factor in her family life despite her best attempts to keep a good posture. Kidman stayed careful as the years went by when talking about Scientology and her children, always aware of the complexity of the circumstances. She has embraced her own road, one outside of the church, but her comments imply that she still struggles personally with the emotional subtleties of her relationship with Isabella and Connor. Tom Cruise's path. Following his breakup with Nicole Kidman, Tom Cruise saw a mix of continuous success in his acting profession and growing public attention with his personal life, particularly his increasing participation with Scientology. While Kidman mainly avoided public scandal following their divorce, Cruise's life followed a different path and drew close examination of both his religious beliefs and media behavior. Early in the 2000s, Cruise's public character increasingly reflected Scientology, the divisive church he had been intimately linked with for years. His relentless loyalty to the religion started to generate more questions about how it shaped his personal choices and relationships. Specifically, his strong advocacy of Scientology peaked in 2005 during a controversial discussion on NBC's Today program with Matt Lauer. Cruise made news during the interview for his strong and occasionally hostile attitude on the themes of psychiatry and medication, which are closely related to Scientology's viewpoint. Cruz's aggressive answers to Lauer's inquiries, at one point accusing the interviewer of being glib, painted him in a dubious light and stoked public interest in his religious commitment. Cruz's work existence flourished while the public debate over his personal views raged. Having started in the middle of the 1990s, his affiliation with the Mission Impossible series helped to confirm his reputation as among Hollywood's most bankable and durable action performers. Cruz's ability to execute his own stunts, including ever more physically demanding and risky sequences, helped the series rise to become among the most successful in film history. His reputation as a courageous actor, ready to push the envelope of physicality in search of cinematic reality, was further boosted by his commitment to his trade and rejection of depending on stunt doubles. Though Cruz's career stayed strong, his personal life became the target of relentless tabloid conjecture. Following his divorce from Kidman, he was romantically involved with several well-known women, but none of these relationships seemed to provide the kind of consistent stability he formerly enjoyed with Kidman. Following their divorce, his most well-publicized romance was with Spanish actress Penelope Cruz, whom he dated for several years following a meeting on Vanilla Sky's set. Although the media first largely covered their romance, it finally faded quietly, and both of them moved on without much public fuss. Over these years, Cruz's inclination to hide some facets of his personal life started to show. He stayed a regular sight on the red carpet and on press tours for his movies, but he grew more reserved about his personal life. Perhaps a direct response to the heavy media coverage he experienced during his marriage to Kidman and the post-divorce investigation, this turn toward privacy was Cruz's relationships, both personal and familial, after Kidman was sometimes seen through the prism of his ongoing allegiance to Scientology, being a prominent public person inside the church. His personal choices, including those on family life and romance, often followed the church's values and influence. The public's difficulty in distinguishing the individual from the church was exacerbated by Cruz's frequent credit of Scientology for many facets of his achievement and personal fulfillment. Cruz retained a potent presence in Hollywood despite constant media attention. His reputation as one of the top stars in the business never changed, and his dedication to his work usually eclipsed his personal life issues. While some questioned how Scientology affected his relationships and decisions, others praised Cruz's career concentration and ability to keep a constant box office draw. Cruz's agility as an actor and his commitment to physically demanding jobs placed him at the top of Hollywood's elite, whether he was swinging from skyscrapers in Mission Impossible or assuming more serious roles in movies like Collateral and War of the Worlds. Though much speculated about, Cruz's personal life grew more and more discreet as the years went by. Though, unlike his previous, more public defenses of the church, he started to speak less freely about Scientology, therefore obscuring many facets of his views and their impact on his personal relationships from view. The legacy of Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise. The union of Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise stands as one of Hollywood's most emblematic and intricate relationships. And even years post-divorce, it continues to enthrall public fascination. Their union epitomized a tumultuous blend of passion, fame, and profound personal discord. A romantic narrative framed by the dazzling context of stardom, replete with the accompanying pressures and intrigue. Despite appearing as the archetypal power couple, their relationship was influenced by factors that transcended superficiality, and its legacy remains one of the most captivating stories in Hollywood history. Their marriage epitomized the successes and challenges of managing love in the spotlight. From their initial encounter on the set of Days of Thunder to their exquisite wedding and opulent red carpet appearances, they epitomized the mythical concept of Hollywood romance. Kidman and Cruise were youthful, attractive, and exceptionally gifted, and their partnership appeared to suggest the possibility of achieving career success, celebrity, and personal fulfillment. However, history demonstrates that even the most ideal partnerships can deteriorate due to external influences and individual disparities. For Kidman, the union with Cruise signified a phase of considerable personal development and notable emotional difficulties. She commenced the relationship as a relatively obscure actress, and concluded it as a globally acclaimed star. Her association with Cruise acquainted her with the realm of Hollywood superstardom, although it also positioned her in a challenging circumstance, frequently overshadowed by his considerable renown. Notwithstanding this, she emerged from the divorce more resilient and resolute than ever, to establish her distinct personality as an artist. In the years subsequent to their separation, Kidman not only reconstructed her personal life but also attained new pinnacles in her career, securing an Oscar and establishing herself as one of the most esteemed actresses of her time. Conversely, Tom Cruise's legacy from their connection is also intricate. Cruise, a global icon prior to their marriage, maintained his prominence in Hollywood thereafter. Nonetheless, his personal life became increasingly intertwined with his public image, especially with his association with Scientology. Although his professional achievements remained mostly unblemished, his personal connections, notably with Kidman and subsequently Katie Holmes, were often examined in light of his religious affiliations. Cruise's relationship with Kidman is perceived by many as a pivotal moment in his life, marking a time when his personal decisions became intertwined with his career in more conspicuous and occasionally contentious manners. Their marriage has enduringly underscored the fragile equilibrium between private and public life in celebrity culture. For more than 10 years, Kidman and Cruise endured relentless public scrutiny, with their every action analyzed by tabloids and entertainment media. Notwithstanding their efforts to preserve seclusion, the demands of fame inevitably infiltrated their marriage, leading to its disintegration. The termination of their partnership, however distressing, was a pivotal moment of transformation for both individuals, each of whom emerged from the separation with a revitalized emphasis on their individual trajectories. Their romance highlighted the interplay between love and power dynamics in Hollywood. Their union, as two of the most successful and important figures in the industry, transcended mere matrimony, evolving into a corporate collaboration that captivated public interest for years. However, when their occupations diverged, the equilibrium of power inside their marriage appeared to alter, culminating in the final dissolution of their union. For Kidman, the experience of entering a prominent marriage at a young age was both formative and arduous. She has since articulated how their union influenced her self-perception and future relationships, providing insight into the emotional intricacies frequently associated with public marriages. Since their divorce, Kidman has attained tranquility and satisfaction in her marriage to Keith Urban, while simultaneously advancing her career as an actor and championing women's rights in the profession. Cruise has sustained his status as one of Hollywood's most enduring action stars, with the Mission Impossible franchise exemplifying his unwavering commitment to his profession. Notwithstanding the dissolution of their marriage, both actors have succeeded in making a significant impact on the entertainment industry, each in their own unique manner. Kidman and Cruise established a legacy characterized by love, ambition, and the intricate interplay of personal lives exposed to public scrutiny. Their narrative, encompassing all its vicissitudes, epitomizes Hollywood brilliant, theatrical, and perpetually captivating. The insights derived from their connection persist, illuminating the human experiences of love, sorrow, and personal growth under the scrutiny of fame. However, Kidman's narrative constitutes but one segment in the intricate chronicle of Tom Cruise's romantic history. Katie Holmes, another lady who played a pivotal role in Cruise's path, encountered her own difficulties in the public eye. Similar to Kidman, Holmes became enmeshed in a fervent romance with a prominent Hollywood personality, ultimately emerging years later with her own narrative to recount. Katie Holmes is now publicly addressing her connection with Tom Cruise. What revelations will she disclose? In what ways does her experience contrast with Kidman's? What new insights will her narrative provide regarding the enigmatic Tom Cruise? To ascertain, click on the video now displayed on your screen. Do not overlook this significant disclosure. Click now to be the first to receive Katie's insights. Thank you for viewing, and I look forward to our next encounter.